What's good, y'all? It's your boy Kenley Bradu, and we are back with another basketball video. For some reason, I was told I should have an intro again, so here it is. This is my top 3 players of the 2010s. If you haven't watched part 1, make sure to do that. And this is my list, this is my ranking. Don't dispute, just enjoy. Let's get right into it. Number 3, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant might be the greatest scoring talent that we've ever seen, next to Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. There's not a single shot that KD can't hit consistently. He's a great three-point shooter, probably the best mid-range shooter in the league. And despite his skinny frame, he has been able to put on the muscle to score very well inside. I mean, Kevin Durant is a 7-foot small forward whose signature move is a hesitation pull-up. If that's not phenomenal, I don't know what is. KD is basically the evolution of Dirk Nowitzki, except he moves like a guard and can dribble like one too. And these aren't just catch and shoots like stretch bigs either. Durant can score off the dribble. Kevin Durant has made the All-NBA team every year of the 2010s. It's quite the skill that KD has attained this level of offensive production and efficiency as long as he has. Teams still haven't found a way to stop him, and they never will. Durant is a generational superstar. That is the dream for a team to build around, as he has very little weakness. In 2012, he led the Young Thunder team to the NBA Finals, and despite the series only going to 5 games, they put up more of a fight than you may imagine, but succumbed to LeBron and the Miami Heat. In 2014, even though Russell Westbrook had been injured for a lot of the season, Durant stepped up and proved why he's a franchise player. And rather than letting the Thunder have a bad year, Durant went and had the best year of his career, averaging 32 points and winning league MVP, and leading the Thunder to the conference finals, where they lost to the Spurs, just overall more talented. And in 2016, where at this point, it really was a mystery as how they hadn't made another run to the finals by now, they nearly made it by beating the 67-win Spurs in the second biggest choke job of any team that year to the Warriors in the conference finals, before they could go and have the biggest, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, a lot of people hate Kevin Durant for what he did in the 2016 offseason by signing with the Warriors that literally just won 73 games that season and beat him in the conference finals. And if you are a KD hater, well, I can't really blame you. You can't say you didn't put in the work. And Durant was perfectly in his right to sacrifice some legitimacy and legacy so he could go and win a championship. Well, they were able to steamroll through the league, winning 67 games and the NBA championship, only losing 1 game in the whole playoffs. And in 2018, they swept the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant was still able to establish himself as the number 1 guy on that Warriors team, despite playing with Steph Curry, and he was still averaging 25 points, paired with another one of the most talented offensive players of all time. In the NBA Finals, both in 2017 and 2018, he was able to hold his own against LeBron James and perform very well, winning Finals MVP both years. So you may not like his decisions, but at the end of the day, Kevin Durant cemented himself as one of the best players of the decade and all time, even if you want to say he didn't do it the right way. Unlike a certain Number 2, Stephen Curry. Okay, I'm not even going to say I think Kevin Durant is a worse player than Stephen Curry per se, especially considering KD was a superstar the whole decade, while Curry didn't break out into a superstar until 2015. But before Kevin Durant even got there, Stephen Curry won MVP in 2015 and led the Warriors to 67 wins and an NBA championship, something Durant was never able to do with the Thunder. And the only thing that stopped him from winning Finals MVP was his one bad game in Game 2 of the 2015 Finals. But you cannot sit here and tell me that Andre Iguodala was a more valuable player in that series than Steph Curry, because that's just not true. Then in 2016, not only did Steph Curry have many individual achievements, such as leading the league in scoring and breaking multiple 3-point records and becoming the first ever unanimous MVP, but he also led the Warriors to the best regular season record in NBA history. And while that ended up not exactly translating to the playoffs, just barely beating the Thunder in 7 games before falling to the Cavaliers in 7 games, by infamously blowing their 3-1 lead. But once again, you can't tell me that that wasn't a great team just because they didn't win a championship that year. I mean, they didn't even lose 10 games in the whole regular season. No team or player, which is what we're focusing on here, has ever dominated a regular season as much as Golden State did that year, or Curry did that year. He steamrolled through the league in a way that hasn't been seen since Jordan, although let's not draw any comparisons there. Nonetheless, Curry revolutionized the game. Before him, was the 3-point shot used? Yeah, but Curry proved that being great at shooting threes can win games and championships. They made teams change up their strategies and shoot more from deep, such as the Rockets and the Trailblazers, and largely nowadays as a whole. There's not too many talents nowadays that just come along and can say that they helped change how the game is played, but Curry succeeded in doing that. I mean, have you ever just seen someone just comfortably walk down the court and just shoot a three-pointer behind the logo before Steph Curry did it? Or just off the dribble shoot and make threes like it was nothing? I mean, really, the man made 402 threes in a season. That's 5 threes a game, and it was on 45% shooting. Now a lot of people like to discount his other 2 championships in 2017 and 2018, and similar to Kevin Durant, people act like Curry didn't earn it. And sure, he didn't win as traditionally as someone would like, but that's just the player empowerment era. Thanks, LeBron, who we'll get to in a moment. But anyway, despite being surrounded by one of the greatest scorers of all time, Curry still was scoring 25 points as well, and this man was extremely unselfish in the way that he showed he was just devoted to winning, and he even sacrificed a bit of pay to make room for Durant to stay. The man is just a winner at heart, and he proved that, and that's why he's a 3-time champion, along with, of course, playing on one of the most talented rosters of all time. I mean, you don't only lose one game in the entire playoffs without one. I guess, unless you're the 0-1 Lakers. That was pretty much just the Shaq and Kobe show. Anyway, people might not like the team he plays on, which is the nearly unbeatable dynasty they created up until now, but you have to respect Curry himself. 2 MVPs, 3 championships, led 3 of some of the greatest teams of all time. The Warriors system is built around Steph and his amazing talent. Curry has done the work to be successful, almost as successful as... Number 1, LeBron James. Alright, this one was obvious, and I'm sure everyone saw this coming. I'm not going to be too edgy. But I mean, we haven't seen just one single player dominate a decade like this since Michael Jordan. I know people bring up the fact that LeBron's record is 3-6 in the finals, compared to Jordan's 6-0, or even Russell's 11-1. So while I admit it's not exactly common for greats to have that bad of a losing record, we should still account for the fact that he made 9 finals in the first place. I mean, that seems to me like the definition of being the best, or the king, if you will, of the decade, when you made the finals nearly every year of it. And something some people don't know is that LeBron's also never lost in the first round. Well, at least this decade. So each year he never stopped fighting, and never gave up. Well, except for when he kind of gave up on Cleveland. But he had a phenomenal game in Game 6 of the semifinals. They just could not help him out, and he left. But I mean, who can blame him for getting sick of giving it his all, just to have his heart broken year in and year out, because his teams were never good enough. That's why he went to a team that was good enough, and ushered in the player empowerment era, and infamously decided to take his talents to South Beach to join with basically the best young players in the Eastern Conference, and other superstar Dwayne Wade and all-star power forward Chris Bosh, and arrogantly claimed that they were going to win
not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7
championships. Of course, he was thoroughly incorrect, as in just his first year there, they got upset by Dallas, proving it takes a bit more than joining up with your basketball buddies to win. In 2012, though, LeBron knew what he had to do and got a vice grip around the league, and showed who the alpha and leader of the team really was, and won the MVP that year in 2012, and they would beat the Thunder in 5 games to win his illustrious first NBA title. It was a lockout year though, and some doubted the legitimacy. And just like so many greats before him, as this is what greats do, he put himself on a mission to shut the doubters, and he did just that. That's what legends do. This is the season the Heat really just became dominant. White hot, if you will. LeBron led the team to 66 wins, and then in a very close NBA Finals with the San Antonio Spurs, after lots of great performances, he would convincingly win his second NBA championship. With a little help, I might add. After the Stars he joined up with started to decline, unlike himself, he still led that team to the NBA Finals, where they inevitably lost to the Spurs, who had come back with a vengeance. He had then left the Miami Heat so that he could bring a championship home to Cleveland. Now you might be starting to notice LeBron and his team hopping, but you can't question his devotion to winning, at least. He was willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals, and didn't care what anyone else thought of it. And one of those goals was bringing Cleveland, or Ohio as a whole, a title. LeBron really proved just how valuable he really was. I mean, the rest of the team improved, but still, despite the Cavs being horrible all 4 years LeBron was gone, getting 3 number 1 picks in that time span, LeBron James transformed the Cavaliers into a finals team, who was also competent enough this time to build a great team around him. They basically just got pretty unlucky in the playoffs in 2015 after Kevin Love got injured in the first round, and then Kyrie Irving got injured in Game 1 of the finals. So LeBron ultimately lost in 6 games to Stephen Curry. Andre Iguodala-led Warriors. And in 2016, LeBron James was able to do something absolutely no one expected, to cement him as one of the all-time greats though. We all know the story. In 7 games, James and the Cavaliers came back from a 3-1 lead in the finals and beat the 73-9 Warriors, kickstarting the awful Cavaliers-Warriors rivalry. In 2017 and 2018, James would get the Cavaliers to the NBA Finals 2 years in a row, where they would get pretty easily beat by the Warriors, who had now acquired Kevin Durant, as I talked about earlier, and they had the 2 best players of the decade. Despite LeBron trying his hardest with multiple 40 and 50-point games, and then the 2018 offseason, he would comfortably once again break the hearts of Cleveland fans in its player empowerment era by joining the Lakers. But this time, they weren't a super team, they actually just didn't make the playoffs. Despite 2019 though, other than that, how much more dominant can you really get in a decade? Now you might be wondering why, unlike any other entry, I basically just recap LeBron's decade. And that's because it's so storied that reviewing all of these events that happened and going through the timeline is really the only way to get a sense of what LeBron did in the 2010s. So, what did we learn? LeBron always gets his revenge. Even when he messes up, he silences the doubters. The man is great enough to carry a team to the finals multiple times and has sustained a level of play so high that whether you love him or hate him, we can all unanimously agree that he was the best player of the 2010s. He was a great scorer, averaging 25 or more points the whole decade, a great playmaker getting 6+ assists throughout the decade, even playing point guard for the Lakers, which is very impressive for a small forward who is up 6'8". Up until the late 2010s, he was a great defender, and there's a reason why his most famous play of all time is a block. And James averaged 2 steals for a lot of the decade. In terms of impact, we know that LeBron ushered in, for better or worse, this new player empowerment. And when I say better or worse, I really only mean worse for the fans in the NBA, but better for, as it says in the name, the players, allowing them to control their paths and try to win and team up until they feel content. James is responsible for that, really. While players like Jordan, Magic, and Bird are responsible for helping the league and putting it into the mainstream and making it entertaining, LeBron is responsible for making things less competitive and kind of a worse product all around. So, ultimately, that will always be part of LeBron's legacy. However, even if he did it in, at times, a controversial way, LeBron made sure that he solidified himself as the best player of the 2010s, the best player in the world,